Welcome to the Kissing Spine podcast. How nice of you to join. In this podcast, I discuss several topics around kissing spine, like what kissing spine is, the different medical treatments, the function of different body parts, functional and dysfunctional training techniques, saddle fit, and a whole lot more. All put together to help you support your horse with the kissing spine. I wish you a lot of fun listening, and if you like this podcast, make sure to become a subscriber so you won't miss any of my episodes. Kissing Spine podcast. If this is the first time that you're watching or listening to one of my podcasts, I have 2 cats and a dog running around this house, and it could be that they're interfering during this episode, but I'm not going to lock them up just because I want to record a podcast. So during this podcast, I want to talk a little bit more about using a training schedule versus using a training strategy. And often the topics for my podcast come out of conversations that I have with people when it comes to training or riding or working with horses in general. Sometimes because I talk with other professionals in the field, maybe a vet, maybe a physio, maybe other trainers, maybe because I've been talking to horse owners and I just feel like, okay, this is an important thing. Well, today's topic is because I've been talking with a co-trainer, with someone who trains horses. And we ended up in a very lovely discussion. I love talking with other trainers about training because what I often find out is that although our techniques may differ, the things that we find important are often very common. And one of the things that I often hear from professional trainers, especially trainers who work horses, like bringing them back and bringing them under saddle, so breaking in horses, and people who trainers who train more towards competitions, that they struggle with the pressure from the horse community and from the owners of the horses. So what often happens is they are approached to start a horse under saddle, and they are given a month to bring the horse under saddle because, you need to pay money per month. You need to pay for the boarding, and then maybe you need to pay for the boarding at your normal yard, at your normal livery, or whatever you call it in your region, because it differs a little bit all over the world. But you need to pay for the training, and then, of course, you want to get as much for the money that you pay, right? Which I understand because, getting a horse trained is usually a very expensive thing. That's why I don't take that many training horses. First of all, I feel that training a horse is a journey between you and your horse. It's your journey. So, if a horse is very green, obviously I do help people out and getting them through that first process. But in the end, it's your horse. So, if you have a horse, which often happens as well, the owners have a horse, a very expensive horse, a very talented horse. They bought it for as an investment, and they bring it to a high level or high quality trainer in order to get it to the highest level and, have a horse that really can work at a high level. And usually these trainers have a little bit longer period of time to get horses there. But what I in general hear is that when I start conversing, when I start talking with these trainers, what they often run into is that owners have a very unrealistic idea with how quickly horses learn and with how quickly horses develop. So you have the horse, which is an individual, and every individual, like me, like you, like your husband, maybe your wife, maybe your boyfriend, girlfriend, kid, like every human being learns and develops in their own way. And things that I was very fast, I know my brother was slower, but there were other things that my brother was incredibly good at and still is very good in, and I'm not. And we both turn up really well. We're really good in what we do. We both enjoy what we're doing, but our skill set and our development over time, how we grew up, how we turn into adults, the path our life had, significantly different. So although often people want to do some sort of copy paste to every horse, that is not really possible and not really fair. So out of this conversation with the trainers that I spoke to came that when they looked in their hearts, actually what they want is to be given the time to adapt the training to the horses and really let them flourish at the things that they're really good at and help them become better in the things that they're not as good at. But in the end, to work towards a solid, soft, and correctly trained horse that lost its job. Like in their hearts, that's what they want. But finding the balance between doing what is good for the horse and being part of the commercial world of being a trainer, that is hard. Especially if you're not a Grand Prix rider or when you are not an Olympic rider. So hear what I'm saying? So if you're at that level, people take you seriously as a trainer and accept easier the no, you need to be patient. But if you're a little bit underneath that as a trainer, it becomes a little bit harder to get business, depending on what kind of clients and what kind of horses you want to work with, because there's a lot of competition out there. Like for me, it's a little bit easier because I work with very specific types of horses. But as a normal trainer, it doesn't matter whether you're in reining or in dressage or eventing, jumping. Like if you get results, people want to bring your horses to you. But if you take your time to get to these results, it's getting a little bit harder to stay for a lot of trainers to stay with their core values because they're afraid of losing the client or the client is becoming very pushy. That is hard. So you as a horse owner need to be very aware of what your impact is on your trainer and on your horse. And that is incredibly important to keep an eye on the individual. So that's why this week's topic is training with a schedule versus training with a strategy. So especially over the last years, it's become very normal to start bringing horses to like 6-year-old or 8-year-old horses to Grand Prix level dressage or higher. How healthy is this? Is this for every horse? So if a trainer is not able to ride Grand Prix with a 6-year-old, is that person a bad trainer? Or is that person being very aware and conscious of what that horse can do? And if not 6, then 8. Like it has become very normal to expect a horse to be at a certain level at 3, to be in a certain level at 5, to be at a certain level at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like every step, every phase, every level is sort of dotted out over how old the horse is. Didi, for example, is 9. I cannot even count on 2 hands or even on 4 hands how often I had the comment, but that horse is 9 now, or actually 7 now. Shouldn't you ABCD? Or she's 8 now. Shouldn't you DF, DEF? Like literally last week, yours is 9. Shouldn't you be at that level? And I was like, yeah, but we had an accident and we've just been in a little bit of bad luck. She's 9. She's not dead. Okay, so we still have time to get somewhere. She started under saddle. Like her working trot is actually better than Raven's. It's just we don't do a lot of ridden work at this moment because there are reasons why not to. Like my saddle is not fitting properly. We just switch places. She's a little bit restless. She's not comfortable. So, I take my horse into account. And it's not that she's not doing anything. I just decide not to push her above her levels in her training. So as soon as you start working with a training schedule, it's so easy to lose yourself and, but now my horse needs to be able to do this. Let's push it. Oh, it cannot do that yet. Shit, we're failing. Sorry, my language, but we're failing. We need to do this, this, and this, and I need to push really hard because we need to catch up on time because else at 8, my horse is not at that level. Same is with rehab training. I hate it. Hate it. really from my toes all the way up, how people are given time schedules and how to build up their horses. Because as soon as you start, okay, we can do hand walking for 5 minutes. Okay, we can do hand walking for 10 minutes. Okay, we can do lunging for 10 minutes. Okay, then we can do trotting for 5 minutes and increase the work with a minute every day, 5 days a week. Okay, awesome. So what if after in week 5, when you're allowed to do the trot work and you trot your horse off, your horse is very stiff, is very restless, is very uncomfortable? Does your horse really need to keep on trotting for 5 minutes because the schedule says so? Or what if for the first 3 minutes your horse is very comfortable and then in the fourth minute your horse is losing comfort? Are you going to keep on pushing because the schedule says 5 minutes? Maybe if you hear me say it like this, you're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't. But in the end, what people do, yeah, but the schedule says 5 minutes. So my horse needs to do 5 minutes. And if the horse is not really doing anything in the posture that people want, they start adding things like the equiband, they start using the German string, they start using the Pessoa rig. And the whole thing is when you start putting a horse in the frame, you stop noticing what the horse can and cannot do because they're pushed to do something and you have no clue whether this is within their physical capabilities. So one of my core values when it comes to training horses is that I want to teach them self-carriage. And for the one horse, it takes 5 years to get to self-carriage. For the other horse, it takes a year to 2 years to get to self-carriage. And with self-carriage, I mostly mean I want my horse to be able to walk with me on its back and without me not having to push them forward all the time and not with me holding the reins or pushing the reins or like constantly having to do something. My horse is able to stay within my 2 reins and my 2 legs without me doing anything, and the horse just keeps on moving until I tell them to do otherwise. And they stay in balance. They don't fall left, right, back, forth. They're just there. That is self-carriage. And that is not something you get overnight. That takes time, that takes training, but that is my core value to go towards self-carriage. Putting your horse in a rig, tying them up at the front, not giving them time to develop, in the end will never get you to self-carriage. It will never get you to a comfortable horse. And the danger of working with a training schedule is that you start pushing your horse above their limits, asking more than they can give or asking too little and the horse getting bored, like numb, because there's no conversation, there's no back and forth thing, there's no question and then you paying attention to what the answer is. And that is working with the schedule. Oh, we need to do yielding 3 times. I say it as well. I do an exercise maximum 3 times. But if in the second time, the exercise is so much better than the first time, I will not do the third time. Or I will do the third time and I will accept that maybe the third time is not as good, but the second one was really good. So I just, okay, you don't have more strength or more balance to do it that good for a third time. Okay, this is your baseline. You could do it once. So taking a yes, reward, and then second time taking a no is also training. It's a conversation. Oh, maybe this time it wasn't as good, or maybe I asked it for the third time but I'm not as clear, I'm not guiding the horse as well. Okay, I can correct my mistake or just accept, maybe move on, tomorrow another day. Okay, so if you just work off, oh, I need to do yielding or shoulder for 3 times each side, you're more busy with doing the exercise instead of paying attention to the quality of the exercise. Like paying attention to the question, am I asking the question correctly? Am I supporting my horse where it needs to be supported? And then let's see what comes out as an answer and then adjust accordingly. Then training becomes a conversation. You engage with the horse. If you're just doing 3 times yielding, there's no conversation there. There's no interaction. And that's where you start losing the horse already. Okay, so that's the danger of working with a training schedule. So, excuse me. So if you start working with a strategy, like, okay, I want to slowly build up my horse. I want to start teaching them a technique of moving. Then I want to build up strength with the technique of moving. And from there on, I want to build up more strength and more balance, and then make the exercises a little bit more difficult. And then, you can start playing with it. Like teaching should be playing. Okay, let me ask a question. For example, 2 weeks ago, I started doing half pass for the first time with Raven. Okay, let me start. We've never done half pass. I've never asked her to bring her hindquarters in by bringing my leg a little bit more to the behind. She has no idea. So literally, I am asking a 12-year-old kid a university question, and I'm just going to see what kind of answer she's going to give me. It's not that I want a perfect answer. I'm just curious, if I ask the question, what direction she's thinking towards to, and whether I can reward that, or whether I need to make the steps a little bit smaller, or whether she's like, oh, I can do this. Well, I've never asked this question before. And that makes learning a game. Okay, I'm asking, and it makes training a conversation. And if she would completely freak out or canter off, for example, because I bring my leg a little bit behind, and she's like, oh, forward, I know this, canter. I'm like, okay, that means that I need to channel this energy a little bit more if I want to work towards that half pass instead of her cantering off. But I don't want her to forget that we also need to be able to canter off. So being aware of that process and being aware of your horse's response makes it possible for you to start thinking, okay, if I want a different answer to my question, what can I do about this question to make it clearer for my horse to think in that direction? And building a foundation of understanding and conversation and giving your horse time to develop so your horse becomes more stronger and balanced, and working you towards that self-carriage. The good thing about working with a strategy is that you learn to accept that if you ask the question, like for example, the half pass, the first time she was like, oh, I can do this, whee! And she just flies off in a perfect half pass. I'm like, whoa, that horse was great. Could be that she's using so many muscles in a different way than what she's used to, that if I would ask the same question the next day, I would get a no, or a very slow no, or a very stiff no, and I would not get the same quality. So there's two things I can pull from that. Okay, she knows what to do. I rewarded her for that. Why is the quality lower now? Is it because my horse doesn't want to do it? Well, I can tell you for sure that most horses are not lazy, but very stiff, overworked, or not able. I could think, okay, maybe I brought her in a little bit unbalanced or a little bit restless. Let's try it again. If I get the same stiff, I can think like, okay, maybe my horse is a little bit sore from yesterday's attempt because it was really good. Doesn't mean that the no is there forever. It might mean not today. And accepting that, and then letting it go, and then try again in a week and see what your answer is then. Okay, maybe it was just one lucky shot and you do really need to alter a little bit. But, working with a strategy and getting, for example, over there, okay, that is very tense, very, you can do another exercise like shoulder force, see if your horse is a little bit sore or tense, or, you can play around, ask the question, and then see what the answer is. If in everything your horse is very stiff and not really feeling comfortable, continuing the session is not really helpful. What you can do is get off, see if it's easier without your weight. It means that maybe your horse is just simply a little bit sore. But working with a strategy, it means that you can scale a little bit down and follow your horse there. Like, okay, let's close it where you're comfortable. So I don't want to, like, if you're stiff and not really comfortable, I don't want to just turn you back in. I can just get off, walk it out without my weight. So you can get it through moving through the body and lose that stiffness a little bit. What you can do is get on and then walk a little bit more, see if anything has changed, do a little bit of yielding shoulder force, see what happens. If your horse is not really improving that, get off again, work them a little bit through in hand, and then turn them away. And then the next day you're going to try it again. Or maybe you need to decide to give them a day off and then try again 2 days later and see what happens. The same thing is with building up by a horse. Like, I teach every horse in hand how to do yielding and shoulder force. So when I start with a green horse or with an already ridden horse, as soon as I'm getting on, The horse pretty much already knows how to do yielding and shoulder 4. Maybe I need to help them out a little bit more than usual, but eventually within 1 or 2 sessions, they can do it both, regardless their age. Because I worked on the basics to do that. But the thing is, if you're struggling in the beginning or when you're feeling that your horse is doing it very easily, you can already say like, okay, in the walk, this is going really well. This is comfortable. They're thinking in the right direction. That's good. Let's try it and trot. Maybe you get a no, but then at least you tried. Maybe you get a yes and you're like, oh, wow, this is going well. Maybe the day after that, it's a little bit less because they're a little bit sore. Or maybe the day after that, it's going really well. Means, okay, then I can ask a little bit more, or I can ask a little bit more bend, or I can do tempi changes in the exercise. There's stuff that you can do to play with, to improve more balance and get your horse in a comfortable way, challenge them a little bit, accepting the no. But that is working with a strategy. And as soon as you start working with a strategy in every session, you adapt the training to what your horse can handle, you will notice that your training is different because it's always positive. The pressure is gone. Like if you want to compete, you can be like, okay, this is going well today. Maybe tomorrow, not so much. It's just so much easier to adapt to the individual. And you will notice that your horse will start to open up more to you because you start showing your horse that you're paying attention. That you start noticing, oh, here's my horse getting uncomfortable. Maybe I should stop here and then try again another day. You're listening and you're paying attention. And that is the thing that horses love. That is the thing that makes horses trust you, relax more. And the more relaxed they are, the more they can rest, the more they can give, the healthier their bodies are going to be. So it all hangs together. Working with a schedule gives stress. The more you hang on to that schedule, the more stress is going to be there. The more you let go of that schedule and start working with the strategy, the easier training is going to become. Really? Listening to your horse and accepting the no. I have one good example about this, which I had with my horse Didi. She was pregnant when she came with me, and she was unridden. And I just started lunging, working hand, and did some lunging with her, build her up strategically. And she was just giving me more and more. It was very nice in the work. But like the more big she became and the more like the closer the due date was going to get, she would start to slow down. I said to her, like, listen, I've never been pregnant. I have no idea what it's like. Your body, girl, you need to tell me. So I sort of made a silent agreement with her that she would just keep on going until she would stop. I would pay attention, like, okay, when is she getting sore? When she's losing quality? When she's getting like a very heavy breath and I need to stop her. But I really tried to pay attention to the quality of her movement and her physical expression in general. And that worked really well because, well, she would trot, and she would trot a little shorter, then she would trot off and come back to a walk fairly quickly. In the end, she wouldn't really trot off if I asked her. And then like the last week or so, after one round on the lunge and a walk, she would just turn to me. She's like, no. Okay. Try the other side after one round. No. Okay. That was it. I'm going to give you a good brush. You're going back. Week later, she gave birth. So, was a fair deal that in the last week, I mean, for humans, the maternity leave starts a little bit earlier than that, right? But I felt the more fit she is, the easier the labor is going to be. It was very, very easy. Also very PRE, Spanish horse, normal to them, but, very, very, very easy birth. Very good for my heart rate. But that being said, a lot of people said to me, like, Sabine, if you're going to do it like this, there's no way that you're going to get her back into the work. She will just never work for you anymore because you taught her that she doesn't have to. And I was like, let's see what happens. So after 4 weeks, maternity leave was over. After 4 weeks, I just started her bringing back to the walk. First time, 2 rounds. And then the second time, she gave me 5. And then at a certain point, she started, I don't know exactly when it was, but at a certain point, she started to trot. She was comfortable to trot. And then after that, she initiated canter. I didn't do anything. She was the one giving me more and more. The only thing I paid attention to is if the quality of the gaits and the quality of the movement and their softness and relaxation was the same. I had my foal, who was turning 2 in a month. He was running next to her and playing around and goofing around that she was just doing her job. And when she was done, she was done. She would just stop. I listened to her. Whenever you're done. At a certain point, she wrecked her hock in the field. Very like, it's like the tendons and the ligaments around the hock were a little bit torn, so she had like a full blown up hock. In that rehab, it was the same thing. She needed to tell me if she was lame, I couldn't work her. So I needed to walk her, like get her slowly to become stronger and let all that tissue repair. Took time. And again, people were saying like, she's never going back to work. Yes, she did. On her terms, in her time. Everything healed fine. There was no broken bone or anything to be found. And actually, the hock is not even thick anymore. Like everything is away because I gave it time and I listened to her body. She told me when she was comfortable and when she was not. It's that easy. And I used a strategy. No time. Yeah, of course. She's 9 now. I would have liked being compete with her right now. She's not ready. She's physically and mentally not ready. So who am I to say you need to do it because I'm on a clock? Whose clock? Why? And I totally understand that if you're a competitive rider and you're listening to this now, or you're watching this now, you're like, yeah, but that's easy. But I have people paying me to get results. Yeah. So I'm going to ask a very harsh and very honest question for you as a trainer, but also to you as a horse owner. Is it fair what we're asking? Is it fair what you're asking of your trainer? And you as a trainer, is it fair to ask of this horse? Isn't it you that should talk to the owner and explain what's going on, and that you're asking more than what the horse can handle? And ask the owner the honest question, like, okay, if I need to cross your horse's physical and mental boundaries in order to get those results, with the result that they either are going to hate their job or that they're going to get injured in the process, what would you want me to do? Do you want me to push through? Or do you want me to slow the process down to keep your horse happy and healthy? And as a horse owner, aren't you the one that needs to be open for this conversation? That if your trainer says maybe we should slow down because it's better for the horse's physical and mental health, that you should listen to that? Or actually, as an owner, you're responsible that your trainer is doing that? Aren't we all responsible for our own horse's physical and mental health, well-being? I think we are. I think we are responsible. We are all responsible for our horse's happiness. So maybe if the trainer is not noticing any differences, it's you as a horse owner that should notice. And if the horse owner is pushing through and wants you to get more results with the horse, and you're really noticing that the horse needs more time, and you will get there eventually, but needs more time, aren't you the one that needs to protect the horse? In a perfect world, we will all do that. And we would all be that conscious, but eventually someone needs to step up, right? So training with a schedule, it's so much healthier for both the horse's body and for the horse's mental health, well-being. And whether you're doing this in a competitive way or whether you're doing this in a rehabilitating way, expecting the horse to do something within a certain period of time, it's not fair. The only thing that you should keep in mind, that good work sticks. So if after 2 or 3 months of rehab and you turn your horse out for a month, yes, you can have a little bit of fallback because your horse is not being trained. So he will lose a little bit of muscle and may get a little bit more stiff in the joints. But if you start bringing them back to the work, they should very easily go back towards what they were doing and pick it up quicker than what time you needed to start building it up. But the less your horse is declining, the better it is. If you really have to start from scratch and you're, again, working 3 months, working on this exact same thing to end up in the same spot in 3 months' time, you might want to consider looking further what's going on with your horse, because that would mean that your horse will always need maintenance, and that maybe there's other things going on with your horse that is holding back his process. Again, a little decline is all right, but you should be able to bring them back to where you ended relatively quickly. So there's no real-time schedule, but you shouldn't have to start all over again. Okay, depending on how severe the problems were and how stiff your horses are, you need to keep all that stuff in mind, but good work sticks. Okay, so if you want to be sure that after 3 months, the things that you've been doing has been having real results, train them for 3 months, train them out in the field or whatever for a month, and then bring them back into the work, and then make a video of your last 2 sessions so you have some comparing material, and then see how long it takes to get you back to that same level. Monitor 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or is it again 3 months to get there? If it's again 3 months, then something else might be going on. Okay, but also this is why you have a strategy, because then you can gradually start building up. Listen to the horse. Oh, this goes easily, let's move on to the next step. Oh, this goes easy, let's move on to the next step. Oh, here you're getting sore, okay, maybe we should play around this level a little bit. I hope this helped. I hope this planted a seed of approaching training in a different way and letting go of forcing a certain time frame on horses. Every horse is an individual. You are an individual. Your brother, sister, mother, dad, everyone is an individual that develops eventually in their own specific ways, that has their strengths, their weaknesses, has their traumas, has their physical issues. You need to take all that into account. Not one horse is the same, not one process is the same. There's no copy paste to a training. It's training a horse and developing them and supporting them at the places where they need it. I totally understand this is a lot to comprehend. So if you have any questions, if you're stuck in this process, if you're not sure what you have to do, just feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions that you're having. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time. I would like to thank you again for listening to this podcast. If you think that this podcast is interesting to someone else, please share it on social media so others can find it too. This way we can create more awareness about what the options are with a kissing spine horse.